You know, when you talk about the card reader, what also comes to mind is the patience of President Goodluck Jonathan. Call it deja vu, but that's what we saw during the presidential election. And there was also a repeat of that, you know, the card reader not able to read the biometrics or the data of the president, of President Jonathan. And you say INEC should have been able to, between that time and that particular election, bridge the gap of all of these anomalies or difficulty.
Yes, INEC should have done that, and it's possible for them to do that. But that's why I'm.
Should we be having explanation from INEC why that persisted? Because some would have thought that if there is a problem with the card reader for that particular unit, or in any other part of the country, perhaps maybe we're talking about a state like Kogi that has gone to election. Don't forget, we also have an election that will be coming up in Edo State next year. So that is why we should start asking the questions. Shouldn't INEC be speaking up on this particular card reader if they have any kind of problems that need to be fixed at this point in time?
But that is what we're talking about, planning. Setting up targets. Planning, what does it mean? It's like Nigerian dictionary, we don't have planning there, especially in the government cycle. Because if you have the word planning there, what planning means is to look at what you have. Were there challenges earlier? If there were challenges, what are we doing to, you know, to be able to get off with the challenges? And that's exactly what you just suggested. Why can't we look at the fact that card readers, this is the percentage. There was an election report after April. So the issues of card readers not working in certain areas or the ones that are not working were all known. So we had expected INEC, the resident electoral commissioner, to look at what should we do. These card readers that did not work. Sometimes there are some identifiable individuals that it didn't work on. Why don't you go and even, when you have updated what you have, why don't you go and do some, you know, it mustn't be official. You can just go around and then do a sampling to find out whether it has started working. There's nothing wrong with that.
Do you think the electoral umpire is happy with the consistent seeming failures in the areas of logistics?
I wouldn't answer for them whether they are happy, because if you're not happy, what are you doing?
No, what I'm saying, do you think they are? Because what you're saying is that we've been having this perennial issue. So does it look like the electoral umpire is pleased with that kind of situation?
They can't be pleased. They should not be pleased. You know, nobody should be pleased with it. But if you're not pleased, what are you doing? What concrete steps have you taken? What are we seeing? You may be doing other things that behind the scene, and we don't know those ones. But the important thing is that we are not seeing what you are doing, and at the same time, we are not seeing results. We're interested in either the results or reasons why you cannot get the results.
Should there be a change in our electoral pattern, where our way of voting and all of that? Because there are those who are clamored for electronic voting system. But then they say the laws haven't gotten to that point and we're not there yet. Should there be a change? Should we be looking at working on our laws so that we can begin to do things somewhat better?
Now, if the card reader, which is quasi-electronic voting, cannot work, where will electronic voting take us to? Electronic voting will only take us to somebody staying in his house and producing results because of the system we are operating. Let's first get the card reader working. And I know it is possible.
Okay, beyond the issue of the card reader,
yes,
one issue that is trending strongly is the issue of inconclusive elections, and everything seems to be bordered around here. But the taxpayer is worried. You know, the people, you and I, Nigerians pay tax, and it's like this inconclusive elections, you know, it's like it keeps rearing its head. Is this what we should expect consistently? Because you talked about security in Bayelsa, there's the issue of the card reader, and then the taxpayer is asking how much more of our monies, or our monies as the case, will be squandered on rerun and supplementary elections.
We are certainly worried. Not only that we are certainly worried, the states and the constituents where they are having these issues are also worried that sometimes they will leave what they are doing and they come back the next day. We are worried just with our money. They themselves, they have two issues. Not only that their tax is being squandered, but their time also is being squandered. Because they come out today, they can't vote. They come out, you ask them to come out the next day, some of them will not come out. So it is also a problem. And that is why we are saying, if INEC knows that security agencies are failing them, Why would they not complain? If they complain to the appropriate authorities and nothing happens, let them complain to us. Let us pile pressure on the appropriate authorities to do the right things.
Is this working? You know, when we talk about a system that works, we'll also look into getting a system that will be devoid of violence. And we have seen some substantial amount of violence and disruption in this particular election in Bayelsa State in just some places. If the card reader was perfect in getting us the required result, if the system that has evolved over time, electoral system, has been working, do you think we should by now have gotten to a stage where we'll see less or total absence of violence in elections?
If we have the political will and listen to or read into the early warnings and be able to nib it to the bud, the issue of violence will be reduced very well. There is no elections anywhere in the world where you don't have violence. That is number one. But the question is, what level of violence? To what extent does it affect the will of the people? And that is where we are talking about. And remember that election starts some 6 months before the day of the elections. And for you to curb violence, it means you would have started 6 months even before the primaries to look into what is happening. Who are the people coming out? What is the issue of violence? What are they doing? What are the security agencies doing? What information are they passing to INEC? What information are the citizens passing to the security agencies? You know, so from there you move. Yes, you have, like, the major problems we have today in the electoral system are, number one is violence. Take it or leave it. The second one is the inability of INEC to conduct elections in certain areas the way it should. If the candidates are not working, or sometimes bogus numbers come up during the elections where you know people didn't vote, these two areas we must focus on. And once we focus on it, the INEC at the end of it usually knows actually the actual voters. If, for instance, we are told that 100,000 voted in this local government, the INEC at the end, because the SS will give reports, the police will give real reports. SS will particularly give you real reports. And when you collect this, you will know what happened. How did you get to this place? How did you, from 13,000 people that voted, now have 100,000 votes to declare? You know, so when you finish that area, you will also get into some areas where you have issues of security. And I think that is why we need a kind of, whether you call it a colloquium, to find out how do we stem this.
You know, asking this question brings to mind the reports we have also seen in all elections. You have observed and monitored elections in other African countries, and we have seen that even back home here in the country, after every process, there's always a report, a kind of assessment detailing what went down. What happens to such reports?
I would throw it back to the INEC. That's auditing of the system, because those reports should be used to audit the system. But we have seen that over time, the system necessarily do not improve as a result of would have been an audit. Because there are reports from observers, there are reports from monitors. Remember, there are monitors, there are observers. There are reports from the presiding officers, INEC staff, both ad hoc and internal staff. Ordinarily, these reports should be brought together and then to crystallize into auditing of the system. And auditing means to look at, oh, these are areas we have not got it right. These are areas we have not got it right. Can we get it right tomorrow? And they move on. So we are urging our INEC to think through. The new chairman, I think he's competent. He should look through INEC, find out if there are people that are sabotaging the system. Find a way of easing them out or neutralizing them. And thinking of a way forward. Looking at it state by state. What are the peculiarities in a particular state? Which electoral commissioner or resident electoral commissioner can do that? Which electoral officer can do the needful in a local government? Who can actually look at the report from that local government?
Because such reports, as you put it there, it will mean that we have so many reports monitors, observers, different groups, and even the electoral umpire itself, they all have reports. And I'm quite sure the security agencies will be having reports.
Sure.
Now, talking about security matters, which I said we must also go back to before we wrap this up, don't forget that the use of members of NYSC, we're talking about core members. In this case, in Bayelsa State, we understand some of them have been caught in this mayhem or in this violence there. Security reports about conduct of elections is another report that we thought INEC should also have. But for the security agencies, do you think that that particular report, because it will seem as if in every election they're caught napping when just they thought that all else had worked for them. We see a slip somewhere, just the way it has happened here, especially in Southern Ijaw.
Yes. The issue of security there and what INEC should do, like I said, is INEC should first look at the reports, both the security reports and the system of rigging in those areas. Because like you just mentioned too, the security agencies will have their reports. They have two reports, security agencies. Reports on issue of violence and report on issue of the conduct of the elections. The security agencies have that. The observers will also have such. The INEC itself will normally have such because they are at the center of it. But in our view, they have tried to look at that report, with a view to improving. That's my view, personal view. But also, we have not seen an improvement based on those reports. The same thing that happens in different areas, the same thing has continued to happen now up to today.
Going forward, before I let you off, what would be your recipe to having a better and peaceful, acceptable election in the future with eye on Edo State?
First is for the security agencies and INEC to sit down together, look at issues involved, look at what happened in Edo State during this election, during the last election, look at what has happened in these two elections, and plan for that, starting today, to plan. Make sure that when we get to Edo elections, there won't be issues of card readers, there won't be issues of securities in some areas, because they know the areas where there are security challenges. Let them look at these areas and let them find out how do we surmount this. And I think it is surmountable. It's a question of having the will, political will. It's also a question of saying, now, if this would happen here, what are we going to do? Or is there no political will? Because I think the problem is really the political will. Because if you have a situation whereby there is an incumbent, and you don't touch the group of the incumbents, and you touch the opposition, it becomes a problem, and the opposition will resist with everything they can to ensure that you don't give advantage to the incumbent. But if you say, no, whether incumbent, whether opposition, whoever is there, please, let's respect the will of the people. And we need to start developing that. And I think at this stage, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria should actually look at these things. His own is issue of security, not issue of whether there is rigging. That one may not be within his purview. But the issue of, look, INEC, if you want to do the right thing, I am backing you. The security agency, I'm going to hold whoever is responsible. If, for instance, you say somebody is responsible for a particular local government, you have to maybe either the police commissioner or somebody who is in charge of that area. And you say, please, if I see if there is violence in that area, you're off. You're sacked. You think there is violence in that area? If you give it to police and people are more armed than the police, there is nothing you can do to the police. But if you say there is police, there is a military, there is a commander that is in charge of that, and you say security problem, you are sacked. You think they will continue? I don't think they will.
Chukwuma Ezeala, many thanks for speaking with us this morning. He's a legal practitioner, and we'll be looking at assessing the outcome of Bayelsa and Kogi elections with eye on future elections, specifically that coming in Edo State. Time for us to go to the newsroom, a second time this time. Olumide, how you doing?